The narrative structure of our media production does follow Todorov's theory of equilibrium. The equilibrium starts where we see the Doctor walking, and then the disruption is where we see Harley in the corner of the room, somewhat fidgeting. But then the equilibrium is then restored when, at the end of the film, Harley has to make a choice, either by choosing drugs or choosing his family. However, we decided to leave an open ending. This way it was up to interpretation for the audience whether the character, Harley, chose family or drugs. We decided this would be more effective, but in the same way in which a murder scene is more effective when you withhold the actual scene of the murder, as it's up to the audience's own imagination, and sometimes the imagination for individuals can fit the scene better than the idea of a single person in charge of it. Not only this, but picking one ending only could possibly displease some of the audience. However, leaving an open ending and allowing the audience to fill in the blanks by themselves would serve to please more people, therefore widening our audience and making sure that more people enjoy the film. We also thought it possible that by leaving an open ending, that it would get the audience thinking, like most psychological films should, and by doing this it makes a more memorable and more lasting impression, possibly urging the audience to perhaps want to see it again, or perhaps share it with other people, therefore widening our audience even more. More about the narrative structure. It was a somewhat chronological order, although not completely, as there were flashbacks to earlier dates which took place before the present. For example, when Harley reminisces about his days in clubs taking drugs, or when he thinks back to fond memories of him and his wife together, having a loving time. However, when you are in the present with the Doctor and Harley, all order of events there are in chronological order. This was to show Harley's descent into madness, and like a lot of dramas, it was to show his character development as time went on. And we believe that the lack of complete chronology with the flashbacks, it reflects the chaos that was Harley's life at the time, and could possibly immerse the audience, bring them in, allowing them to empathize with the character, relate to him. Like with most drama characters, they are relatable. This would allow them to emulate the feeling of disarray being felt by him. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind was also out of order, as it started in the middle, and it then continued to the start, and showing us the events that led up to that point in the story, how the character got that way, what he went through to become what he was at the start of the movie, which was in the middle, if you understand what I mean. Binary oppositions are also present in our film. For example, rich versus poor, when in this case the Doctor would have been rich, which opposes the thought that Harley, a drug addict, was poorer, as seen by their clothes. The Doctor was wearing a shirt, as Harley was wearing a t-shirt and tracksuit bottoms. There's also the contrast between powerful status and the more higher class, like the Doctor, against a weaker status and a lower class for Harley. This was shown a lot by the positioning and how the Doctor would always be higher physically. He would either be sitting in a chair or standing, whereas Harley was always seen on the floor whenever the Doctor was present. This was a visual reminder that the Doctor was in fact of a higher position, higher in the pecking order in the hierarchy of society when compared to Harley. I've talked about how the clothes they wore. This was typical, and it's a convention when talking about people in movies featuring drugs as a major theme, where Harley would wear casual clothes. Although sometimes this isn't true, as with other drugs, say with cocaine, they're usually seen as businessmen, but with drugs more like heroin, like Harley was using, they're seen more as the junkie type, where they're erratic, aggressive, and irritable, as seen by Harley's fits and the scenes where he's walking back and forth. It's also seen by the slow speech or the lack of response when the Doctor talks to him. It's also shown by the flashbacks where he frequents parties. This isn't unusual for drug users. In fact, parties are usually associated sometimes with the use of drugs, especially with young adults like Harley. The Doctor, on the other hand, as I said, he wears a shirt which is seen as formal wear, which reflects the idea of him being a doctor or in a higher position than Harley. This is similar to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind again, where the main doctors were wearing shirts and formal wear. However, this didn't last throughout Eternal Sunshine, as later on they were wearing more casual clothes. They even got topless at one point. This was after they started using drugs, which again shows how costume and the clothes they wear can reflect their lifestyle. The Doctor, Harley, is also frequently seen wearing his ID badge and holding a clipboard. This reinforces the notion that he is of a higher status and that he is a doctor. It also makes him seem more official and more believable to the audience. His role in the film is also similar to films like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where he is there to help the protagonist and to cooperate with them to help better themselves in whatever way is best. He is also only seen walking or sitting, and usually more relaxed and comfortable than Harley. It shows that he is in more control, or at least more comfortable or used to these situations than Harley is, and thus is in a high position again. The narrative also follows the genre conventions of psychological drama. For example, it follows the life of what we believed was a realistic character and a relatable character, which is typical of a drama. He's relatable because drugs are a real life problem, and because of this, it means our film deals with a real life problem, which is also typical of a drama. It also tries to show how the character thinks, how they behave, why they behave that way, and tries to get the audience to think about it too, which is typical of the psychological subgenres. It also shows how the character develops, how he's gotten to this point, how he's changed over time, which is typical of a drama. And the purpose of this film was to get the audience to think, to get them to be moved emotionally. Again, typical of a drama. There were also conflicts for his relationship with his wife and drugs. There was a huge conflict there where he had to choose between the two. Finally, moving on to the film language, sound. There was slow, melancholic music to reflect the sadness and depression felt by the protagonist Harley, and the pain he is afflicted upon others and himself by using drugs. This is similar again to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where it showed at the beginning how dull the character's life was, how dull Joel's life was, and it felt to him as the colour as well was all, the saturation was low, and it showed how grey and dull, visually showed how dull and grey his life was. but this is changed later on where it becomes brighter and somewhat weird, if you could say, with bright colours and abstract scenes. We tried to follow this by contrasting the dull scenes in the rehabilitation centre with the fast-paced club music and the brighter colours of the party that Harley reminisces about when he's taking the drugs. This is also shown by the quick shots used when editing, and when contrasted with the slower cuts and fades and transitions in the rehabilitation centre. These were used to show how slow his life felt then as compared to the rush that he felt when taking drugs. It also uses the audience as a somewhat spectator, showing them his life as if taking them on a tour of his life. A slow, well-paced tour, but also somewhat boring compared to the quicker, more visually stimulating scene in the bathroom of the party. These quicker cuts and edits as well in the party were used as a tool to confuse the audience, which again shows how chaotic it is to be Harley, how chaotic his life is, how it feels to be this person, this drug addict. Hopefully getting them to reflect on how real people in real life who have problems with drugs, how they feel in every day-to-day life. Getting them to think like a psychological movie should, but also getting them to feel empathy for these people, moving them emotionally like a drama.